We are live, Chloe.
Yes, we're live.
We're back. Welcome to Chaos and Amazement, where we explore the impact of digital technology on our daily lives.
My name is Chloe Willards.
And my name is Phil Verrijen.
And together we're building socialrunners.com, a marketplace where people like me, marketing professionals, can book creative people like Phil.
I'm curious. What do you have?
What do you have with you? Yeah, a bag full of chaos and amazement, as per usual. But I have been watching the video last night. I was watching a video of the live stream of TikTok's CEO. His name is Xiaozi Chu, who had to defend himself in front of Congress. And I was afraid that it would turn out like, remember Mark Zuckerberg had to defend Facebook in front of the same Congress. And then he was very pale and sweaty. I have to admit that Xiaozi Chu, he was very composed. He never lost his patience. He was taking notes, and he got some compliments on his composure from the members of Congress.
Oh, wow.
But similarly with Mark Zuckerberg's passage, he got a lot of really stupid questions. Like, for example, is it true that TikTok has access to Wi-Fi? And then just for a split second, you could actually see him blink his eyes like, what kind of a question is that? Of course it accesses your Wi-Fi. But he was always polite and correct, even when it was very aggressive. It was a little painful to watch, to be honest, because the questions they were asking, I felt sorry because I was watching with a number of games that we didn't start like a drinking game. For every time that members of Congress from all sorts of representatives from all sorts of states would mention the Chinese Communist Party. That was one of those words that they would drop deliberately. And they kept asking about what access the Chinese Communist Party has to the data of the American children. And that was the thing that they kept getting back on. And that was, of course, I can understand where it's coming from. For me, it was throwback to 2 or 3 years ago when Trump was still the president. And then when he was running for president, he mentioned China.
Oh, China.
Quite a lot in his speeches. And then along the way, he forgot about it and started talking about the beautiful Mexican wall. But he did try to block, I think it was even an executive order, where he wanted to have TikTok, or the TikTok as he called it, he wanted to have it banned, and then Joe Biden revoked that. And that's how TikTok got saved. But now in Congress, which is, it's a bit hard to explain about Congress, but basically they make laws and then they vote on them, and then it becomes a law. But before it can actually become something that a state can enforce, it still has to be approved by some other, like this. I had to look it up. There's still going to be votes. And then the president has to approve it. So there's still some steps to follow before the Google Play Store and Apple App Store will have to remove the app, and then the apps that are already on U.S. citizens' smartphones will stop working. So we're not there yet, but that was the main idea. And at first I thought it was about where the data of you as TikTok users are hosted, because that would also be very sensitive in Europe. Yeah. We feel it's very important that, legally speaking, the laws and regulations, for example, applying to privacy regulations, which are rather strict in Europe, don't exist in China, and are like medium-sized in the US. Usually the laws apply to the servers where the personal data are hosted. Now, ever since Trump's decision, TikTok had been moving personal data to a physical server, I think somewhere in Texas, hosted with Oracle. And there had been talks. First, Microsoft was going to buy TikTok, and that would solve the issue that TikTok was perceived as a Chinese company, although technically, on paper it isn't. But of course, it has its Chinese mother company, ByteDance. And initially, Microsoft was going to buy TikTok 2 or 3 years ago, and that fell through. And then Oracle, which is a weird choice. I mean, Microsoft could act as a media company. they've have some experience with it. With the MSN.com is a media company basically. Plus, they are a very trusted company by everyone. They're very good in cybersecurity. They're good in managing AI. But Oracle, I couldn't see that. But
No.
the user data are hosted on American soil in Oracle Cloud with a backup in Singapore. So that's the idea, and that would solve the data issue. To my surprise, the Congress members didn't even talk about that, only about the Chinese government forcing TikTok CEO, which they considered as Chinese, which was very insulting because he had to repeat a number of times that he's Singaporean. And I must admit, I would have gone angry and say, you probably think we all look the same. It was very racist, actually. Yeah. But he kept his cool. The thing was, the one thing was, and that I expected, that they would insinuate that the Chinese Communist Party would demand through the mother company ByteDance from CEOs TikTok to give access to the data of U.S. citizens, which doesn't even make any sense, but I saw that one coming. The other one I didn't see coming was that they started to demand that the algorithm would also be hosted on American soil. And that's a lot harder because, that it's, so China is obviously not a democracy, but every 5 years they come out with the new rules from the central government, the 5-year plan, so to speak. And then the last time in 2017, they had another one in the meanwhile, but the one in 2017, where the Chinese government, or as the Congress members would say, the Chinese Communist Party, laid out the rules. They really wanted to stimulate the development of AI-based companies. So that was a decision made in 2017. I think because Kai-Fu Lee had lost this Go match, more difficult, a game more difficult to play than chess, from one of Google's AI computers, right? So that's probably what triggered it. And from these rules that were laid out in 2017, one of them says that Chinese AI companies should avoid, under all circumstances, that the code should leave the territory of China. Oh. So they're very protective of the code and the algorithm. And I think some of the Congress members knew that and then tried to come back to that and started adding that to the list of demands. So data being hosted on American soil. But then that other thing, you could clearly see that TikTok CEO was not able to respond to that one. And when you read the newspaper articles about this and what's being said online, he came across as someone who had to say time and time again that that was not his decision to make, that was not his, pay grade level, and that would be part of the Chinese business, as he kept calling it, so ByteDance. So
it feels like war in technology.
Yes, it doesn't help that Putin was photographed with Xi Jinping earlier that week. So that was a very public demonstration of a partnership between China and Russia with the war in Ukraine. That didn't help either. I think there's this new anti-Chinese sentiment in U.S. politics. And so there's this website called data.ai. It used to be called App Annie. It's a great source of information because they know a lot about, for example, which mobile apps are the most downloaded one across all categories. So both gaming, social media, commerce, and I just only 5 minutes ago, I was curious, what are the most downloaded apps in the United States? Number one is Doom, Mighty Doom, which is a game. And then numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 are Chinese apps. So number 2 is Temu. I'll get back to that one.
And it's young companies as well.
Yes,
these
the
apps,
startup.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the third most downloaded app in the US is TikTok. Number 4 is CapCut, and number 5 is Shein. So TikTok is still being downloaded like crazy. I don't understand why, but if you look at the numbers, of course, it was one of those breakout apps during the pandemics of course. We all we were. It was like Zoom was a breakout app, and then TikTok was another one, and then Clubhouse. Remember that?
Yeah.
So those were the three successful apps, but still growing. And it's not just 15-year-olds doing little dances anymore. And then so that's 3 TikTok, and then 4 is CapCut. And I downloaded CapCut earlier this week, and I had a lot of fun of it. So funny thing is, CapCut and TikTok are owned by the same company, so they're both by ByteDance. You have more experience with CapCut, so maybe it's better if you explain it. What does this app do?
Yeah, CapCut is basically like Premiere from Adobe, and it's more for putting out content really fast. So the caption is
it auto-generates captions to your video.
It's so crazy how fast this is going.
Even for Dutch.
And if you do it in Premiere, you need to first transcript, then add to the timeline, then you need to duplicate to the other timeline, and then it's too much of a hassle. And also with CapCut, it's directly you can adjust the style of your captions, and it's applied to all the captions. And that's one thing that is really crazy.
It has it's indistinguishable from Magic, really. It does a number of things that are typical for TikTok videos, like find a song that goes well with the video you just uploaded into the app. And then another one is that it automatically detects where there's a silent or in your video, and that will cut those out for you.
Yeah.
So this and a lot more. It can do a lot more.
For me, it's Canva, but then for video.
Yes,
CapCut.
Exactly. Very intuitively indistinguishable from Magic. I highly recommend it, unless they, of course, maybe you should do the same thing as all of these American mobile smartphone users are doing. I highly recommend it. CapCut, CapCut. So the 4th most downloaded app in the US. And then the numbers 2 and 5 are e-commerce apps. So Shein is number 5, and I think everyone already knows what Shein is. For those who don't, it is a fashion e-commerce, fast fashion. It's a little bit. I think it's a little bit like between Primark and Zara. Very young audience.
Alibaba. Well.
And with a bit of Alibaba thrown in the mix, it uses a feed. I know the audience is very young. They're like 14, 15-year-old girls. And the feed is very attractive, so you can just scroll through it. And I have to admit, I don't have Shein, but I have the Zalando app, and then sometimes when something I'm watching is boring, I will just scroll through. I know it sounds silly, but scroll through some dresses. But Shein is smarter than that, so the feed is really well made. And the thing is, so it's very cheap. They are very fast in finding out fashion trends before. So Zara is already really good at that. They have a look at what's being presented on the catwalks. But then, and then they copy it in a cheap way. Shein is even more ahead of that. What they will show you are dresses, for example, that aren't even produced yet. That's crazy.
And they create fear of missing out.
Yes.
Because the notification is like, you need to be fast, otherwise these dresses will be gone.
They also work with influencers, key online leaders, as I call it. So it functions like a social media app. You get addicted to it really fast. And because there are so many users of this app, they have a lot of usage data that they can build on, and they can just invent a dress virtually, like the deepfake alternative of a dress, and then launch it in the feed of a few million girls, the blue version, the green version, etc. And from that, they know which version they have to produce, and only then it's being physically made in the factory somewhere in China, and then it's being shipped from China to where you are. This is crazy.
And you have TikTok, so there's a partnership right around the corner with Shein. And
I wouldn't assume it's not because they have they have a tutor like the Chinese Communist government in common, because that's the weird thing, the way the government treats its companies. So it's a weird form of centralized capitalism. So they have to abide by the rules, which often implies that the Chinese government is supposed to have a permanent backdoor to what the users are doing on the platform. It might shock some of you, but Russia does the exact same thing with their apps. So that's just how these governments function and how they use social media to spy on their own civilians. And then the other thing is they will also stimulate what I see as capitalism for these. So they will give them cheap loans. They will make it easy for them to expand to other cities, and then and try to pit them up one against the other, so that there's a bit of competition.
Yeah.
So it's a weird mix, but it seems to work, because I'm still looking at this top 5 of most downloaded apps in the US, and I'm looking at 4 out of those 5 are literally Chinese. And then number 2, I briefly mentioned, but that might be new to most of you, is an app called Temu. And that is, well, technically it is an American company, so they were smarter. Before they launched their app on the American market, they created an American LLC, which is just like TikTok, subsidiary of a Chinese company, but not ByteDance, but another one called Pinduoduo. And Pinduoduo is one of those super apps, but the main core is also social commerce. So it is technically it's a commerce platform, a marketplace where you can buy all sorts of things. And these, so Shein is clothing, is fast fashion. Temu is more like these weird gadgets, weird shit that sometimes goes viral. And what they call in Dutch and in French, prol. It's not very well made, but it's high volume, low price, high volume physical things that are being produced in China. So, but the same, just like Shein does this, Temu will make it very attractive and gamified and social media style with the feed. And the fact that this is now in the US, both on iOS and Android, the second most downloaded app makes Temu, I mean, they made me look. So Temu is Temu. So if you want to buy stuff that you don't need, that is being produced at a very low quality, high volume somewhere in China, then shipped to you, Temu is your app. So my point is, so Congress was grilling TikTok's CEO about his links to the Chinese Communist government. They don't realize that 4 out of 5 most downloaded apps in the US are already in Chinese hands. And none of them mentioned that. So personally, I would think it would be a shame if CapCut specifically was banned. I'm not on TikTok, so I wouldn't miss it.
But I think they are scared. China will be a world leader in economics because of all the things
Of course,
they do.
it's
Technology, wholesale, everything they do.
Well, first of all, they already are,
Yeah.
and I think it's also about well, it's been called the economic partnership between Russia and China, and so Putin specifically had been asking for a lot of favors from China during their meeting. It's been said that he didn't get not even half of those. But of course, with so many countries, because of the war, blocking imports and exports to and from Russia, there's a lot of products that are simply not available anymore in Russia, and then another products that they used to export that they cannot. And so China, of course, is this huge market, and this benefits both of them. Plus, of course, China has the largest standing army literally on the planet. They have it's huge. I mean, the army soldiers alone is in the millions, in the literal millions of soldiers, and then I'm not even mentioning the drones and the tanks and all the other stuff that they have. But
Crazy.
that he didn't get yet. So that is, of course, what's going on.
Right.
That's what's really going on. And then what I was looking for initially, because of the data privacy issue, I was wondering, why is Europe so quiet on this field, except for, people who work for the government were forced to delete the TikTok app from their phones. Whatever. Even in Belgium. So TikTok has launched, the TikTok CEO talked about Project Texas, which was about moving over the user data physically to, I'm guessing, Texas, the Oracle Cloud. And this week they also launched Project Clover in Europe, which is also a data safeguard initiative, where I think it'll be exactly the same. Europe GDPR regulation, for example, will also look at where are the personal data hosted and how well secured are they from, I don't know, some government that starts to meddle with it. So, yeah, I don't think TikTok is going to get bought by a US company. It would make sense if Microsoft did it, but they don't have anything to win by it because it's part of a very complicated geopolitical game, and I don't think Microsoft or Oracle wants to be mixed up in that. It being banned, that would be really bad news for all of these marketing professionals who decided in October to move over a large portion of their marketing budget away from Instagram, for example, where engagement rates were going down, to TikTok, where engagement rates were up. So there's a lot of people waiting with a lot of anxiety what the outcome is. On the 6th of April, so the TikTok CEO got a number of questions, and then some of them, like the technical aspects of exactly where and how things are being hosted, he has to respond to those before the 6th of April. And then I'm guessing they convene again. But like I said, there's still a lot of voting rounds. I don't think it will be banned before
But
the summer.
last week I told you if they're gonna ban it, Gen Z will not
Be happy.
And
But it would be good news for Meta.
yeah, but yeah, no.
There were some protests of TikTok influencers, obviously, but
For
they
example.
didn't have the slightest effect on because if Congress members, and that's a classic argument, will somebody please think of the children? They insinuated that a whole generation of American teenagers they were causing this epidemic of teenagers with the depression and mental issues, which is an issue.
Yeah.
It's a genuine issue. But then again, you have this. It's called a moral panic, right? So we've seen that. We're seeing that like every 10 years. So last time it was MTV was going to ruin our generation.
Yeah.
Before that, I think it was heavy metal music.
Yeah. Then Woodstock.
Before that, it was comic books.
Ah, yeah.
Comic books, just the genuinely politicians and parents being worried that these types of media were the reason that they couldn't have that they lost all contact with their own children. So that's just an excuse. There's
in the 60s, the new generation didn't want to go to the war because of.
So there's this divide, this generational divide, and they're trying to blame it on whatever the most popular medium is at that time. And it, like I said, in the 50s and 60s, it was comic books, and then now it's TikTok.
Yeah.
So of course there's this correlation is not causation, right? So. TikTok. I'm pretty sure. So is it already the 6th next week when we're meeting each other, or do we have to wait? Not yet. So we'll get back to this in a couple of weeks. Meanwhile, I'm not even going to talk about Microsoft and Bing, although I did. That consistently every week they integrate a new feature, and I mentioned it anyway. So they integrated DALL-E into Bing. It's not even the only thing they integrate, but that's the one I played with this week.
It's your new boyfriend, so Bing.
Bing is still my new boyfriend. So we're planning to meet up in Hustle to watch the cherry blossoms, and so now you can. But you have to put, like I said, you have these 3 modes that you have, and the first, the one I like most is of course creative mode. And what I really like about it is even if you don't type anything, it will just amuse you with some creative stuff. And now that DALL-E is integrated, it will just throw like two rows of random AI-generated images. In this particular style that I've come to love so much, with a lot of this particular purple and neon pink. You know what I'm talking about? and like a lot of hamsters and unicorns. So it throws a number of these images at you just to
But
amuse you.
I'm seeing it now also on Adobe Stock or Shutterstock. People
Adobe,
uploading.
but you don't win silver, you lose gold.
Yeah.
And of course, all the others are, and now Google Bart is coming out every week with new features, and but they're winning silver or bronze, and Microsoft is still gold. So that's and I have, and that's when it becomes powerful. We all have like 100 apps on our smartphone, and if you look at your battery life, you can see which of the apps you open most often because they suck away the life from your battery most. And when you end up in, basically there's only 5 apps that we use on a daily basis, 5, maybe 6. And 1 or 2 of them will be messaging apps. It will be WhatsApp, for example, and Facebook Messenger. But now Bing is one of those 5. And I hadn't even installed these apps until 2 weeks ago. So this little new boyfriend Bing has now become part of my routine. And when you become part of people's routine, that is really powerful. Yeah. Even if you have, if you're able to tap into the zeitgeist better than other apps, the way Be Real did. Yeah. If it doesn't cement itself into the routine of people for more than 3 months, it won't make it. No. And I'm pretty sure that because of this creative mode, which I absolutely love, that Bing is now cemented into my... Oh, Siri. My God, she keeps doing that. Meanwhile, Siri is still...
She's jealous about Bing.
I know. Yeah. This is the second time I'm talking about Bing, and then Siri activates herself. The reason why Apple is not catching up in the AI race, the way Google, for example, Google is trying to catch up, Adobe is trying to catch up, and then Apple is really quiet, is that Siri is based on private person's behavior and reactions. And there is no way for Apple to explain the fact, to be transparent about how Siri learned about this. Because Siri learned from millions of other Siri users, and that's something that Apple would never be able to be transparent about, so they would rather keep her stupid.
Yeah, but I think they're comfortable about their history because they are always later than the rest. And they will always be better than the rest, but it's on a downtrend now with Apple. People are not that enthusiastic about Apple anymore.
No, true. It's not like if you compare it to other brands that people use to define their identity, like Nike is one of those brands, and Tesla used to be one of those brands. Now Apple is no longer that. The little Apple sticker on your bumper. That effect is, nevertheless, they're still selling a lot of iPhones.
True,
and they're very strong in other areas, and they're very strong in an area that the whole health industry, where the Apple Watch will monitor a lot of life signs, and that is a big business. I mean, and they will make money anyway. Yeah. Apple will make money with this health industry. Microsoft was making money anyway through security services, for example. So it's always good to have multiple sources of income. But the race is on, true. Yeah. And Google and Adobe, to mention only 2, are trying to catch up. And that's good, because that means that there's a lot of innovation going on. And that also means, and that's chaos. So that's amazement on one hand, but the chaos is then also because they're trying to catch up and everyone is running, that more mistakes will be made, of course. But I want to pick out one other company that I briefly mentioned in the past few editions, but I would like to have a closer look at a separate one called Runway. RunwayML is also generative AI, but it is generative applied to video editing specifically. And it's also, innovating week by week. They come up with things that are indistinguishable from magic. So they had one feature that blew my mind. So a number of very impressive green key style video editing features, but most of those Adobe also has in some form. They had another one I remember where you could upload pictures, the typical drone images, and then it would turn it into a flyover video. But then when the drone was at the end of the landscape that we had photographs of, it would invent the rest of the landscape. That was
And if you want to remove a car in this picture, it's possible.
A driving car, yes.
Just with a selection tool.
But most of these things, if you knew where to look, some of the Adobe software already had this. But this week, my God, they came out with... Let's just have a look. So they call it AI magic tools. And you might say that doesn't even... But they are, one by one... they are indistinguishable from magic. So what they have, for example, is of course text to image. This is what I just talked about: infinitely expand images, where it will just fantasize what is out of the frame, what is out of the frame without knowing what the frame is. So we're just looking at the images, not even the videos. Of course, and then the style again, which is not unique, where you apply a different style to the same image. You can tell it, okay, I have a video here and that I've shot myself, and then upload an AI-generated image where you set some other app, like, for example, Stable Diffusion or Dream, the one that I use by Wombo, where you try to create an image of a teddy bear in the style of Studio Ghibli, then give this to Runway, and it will turn your video completely edited in the style, the video in the style of the image you just uploaded. So it has these amazing things. So I started wondering, so this week they came out with the first version, and it's still a little primitive. You can see that the way it's being rendered is very flaky, and then it's already live, but the ones who are using it, they say, yeah, it crashes quite often. You can see it's the very first version, but a text to video. We were waiting for this, text to video. Facebook said 3 or 4 months ago that they had text to video software, AI driven, obviously, but then they only showed their own demos, and there was no way to play with it. So you can claim whatever you want, Meta, but there was no way for us plebeians to try it out. On Runway, it's already live, and it's glitchy, it's imperfect. I suspiciously see how fingers are being avoided in here. So I kept wondering, RunwayML, who or what is behind this? And I just found out that it's basically the most important of the founders is a guy called Cristobal Valenzuela, who is from Chile. And he got some backing from creative funds. Some of them owned, he's been sponsored, some of his work has been sponsored by Google, but the company in itself is just a startup. It's just this Cristobal guy and then 2 other founders. And if you look at, so he studied at the university and at the tech school in Chile, and he is trained both as a software developer and an artist, and I think that's the profile of the future, where you can have people who have this creative imagination that he has, but also the skills to code it and to work with AI. So if you ask me, what company are you following, like, on a weekly basis? I created a Google alert for it. I just want to know everything that RunwayML comes out with the minute it comes out. I love the way that they will just launch it, put it on our website, and then let you play with it. And RunwayML. ML stands for machine learning.
The name is a little bit different than.
It's different. It's not like OpenAI, which is obvious. A lot of Google projects also will also have like Deep or Open in them, or Dream. Usually these AI companies have either Dream, Open, or Deep in them.
No, they were working with BART.
Yeah, but where the hell did that come from? It's probably an acronym. No. In science, usually they will first come up with a word and then pretend it's an acronym and then find words to fit that theory. So they will reverse engineer and claim it's an acronym and then reverse engineer. So whatever, BARD is it's not a good name. It's absolutely not. But they too, like I said, they are winning bronze. in this game. And a lot more news, but you can see just specifically for generative AI, you can see a few other pointers in my weekly newsletter, also called Chaos and Amazement, klobilaerts.substack.com. I wanted to talk about deepfakes, and I actually made a separate section called Deepfakes in the News, because they're getting better.
Yeah.
The fingers issue has been solved for stable diffusion, and for the other ones as well, because of this race, text-to-image generators are becoming more and more realistic. And for people like us who have been following up and recognize the style, because it does have a specific style, even if you prompt it to be super photorealistic, you can, if you know how to look.
Yeah. Now if I see a picture, it's like, okay, it's real.
Sometimes it's even the other way around, where I see pictures, like actual pictures from stuff in real life, and I still suspect it's AI generated. So, just a few random examples of deepfakes fooling everyone. So there's a journalist called Elliot Higgins, and on Twitter. So on last Tuesday, Trump was supposed to get arrested because he had on his own social media network, I keep forgetting the name, he had said, everybody get ready, I'm probably going to be arrested, which I think it has to do with that there's proof that he paid off she has an amazing name. She used to be a Playboy model, Stormy Daniels. Yes, Stormy.
Okay.
So there is proof that, and I think that she admitted it. He probably didn't admit, but they did meet each other for exchange of bodily fluids, and then of course this was this made him susceptible to blackmail. If you do that kind of stuff, it's typical, And she was being paid off, so she got like $150,000, not directly from Trump, of course, but with two go-betweens. But the trace of this money was it was not messy enough, so they could trace it back to Trump, and that was what the arrest was supposed to be about. Now I know it's like Schadenfreude, but I was waiting for that. And I thought it was great to see. I was looking forward to seeing him arrested, to be brought down by a lady, because he's, the things he says about women, that's just, and to be brought by Stormy Daniels. I mean, wow. But the news didn't come. So this Elliot Higgins guy decided to just, I think he simply used Stable Diffusion. I'm not even sure. But one of those that are available, Midjourney, I think. And he created a number of deepfake images, and it blew up. I've seen it in my feed a couple of times, and you and me immediately see that it's fake. But apparently, a number of Americans didn't.
No, but if you're looking at it like this.
Yeah, it could.
And you're making pictures of Trump getting arrested.
Yes, and it's just scrolling through the feed. You might think, "Oh my God, it has happened." I thought it was funny, but then of course it spiraled out of control, and then there's an interview with this Elliot Higgins trying to explain himself in the Washington Post. Because he was banned from Midjourney for this. That's what he claims. And he tries to explain that it's a joke and it was text to image, and he has to... I hope that for a lot of people in the United States that it kind of wakes them up and to get a closer look at images when they see them in their feed, specifically if they're images like this, images like this, if you're a fan of Trump, or even if you hate him, in both cases, this goes straight to your emotions.
Yeah.
And you stop thinking. So you see this image and immediately you're, oh my God, yeah, and you start sharing it. So I hope in a year or two, we will look back at these pictures and say, this was probably a very important moment in history when people had to start to realize that Not everything is what it seems.
But do we need to protect characters, that people can use your face
Well,
with a prompt?
the prompt itself adapted itself, and you cannot use the word arrested anymore.
Okay.
But of course, that's what creatives do. There were other variations, so you can't use arrested anymore, but then they would say, in an orange suit running away from the White House on fire, and then you would still see him there's a lot of images, and they're all hilarious, I think. So him in an orange suit works just as well, even if the word it's very dangerous to demand from the platform, so Midjourney in this case, to censor based on. I understand. So there's this one prompt I use as a test prompt, which is the fluffy butt of a bumblebee, because I really want to see that image. I really do. The fluffy butt of a bumblebee. That I want to see that image, and then butt is a taboo word. Okay. So Bing Images doesn't accept it, and Midjourney Stable Diffusions. The butt. I understand where butt comes from.
Yeah.
But if you start blacklisting words like arrested. Yeah, I'm not sure. It feels a little like the Chinese Communist Party.
But
monitoring people who would say like things like Tiananmen, and then people would start using emoji. You can, most text-to-AI generators, you can also use emojis as a prompt.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it always understands you, but
maybe they would need to have machine learning for the images that is prompt and make a disclaimer about the picture.
Yeah, that's what most of them. That's what OpenAI does.
If you misuse this picture, then, for example,
or a watermark. It's neither of these solutions is elegant, and this reminds me of I wrote a blog post about there's this fascinating video interview with Marshall McLuhan, and so Marshall McLuhan is the one who came up with the medium is the message in the 1970s. So he is a media theorist. He saw this link, and in the 70s, this was obviously TV and magazines and papers. He saw the importance of media on the way they think and the way they behave. So that's what Marshall McLuhan is very important as a thinker. And so this video popped up of him describing someone using a phone line, because that was his frame in the 1970s, and then describing that someone is interested in Egyptology and mathematics, and would then get paper Xeroxed to him containing the content just for him. So this personalized content, this is what generative AI is doing right now. Mm-hmm. So Marshall McLuhan in the 70s described something that we now have as generative AI. So that's why I started looking at this video. But then he says, I am against innovation like this, and there should be a stop button. We have to study this so that we can stop it and push the stop button in time. And that's when I started thinking, wow, that's weird. But it got me thinking too, if AI, and it's not even general AI, artificial general intelligence, it's just a creative AI. What's the limit? Forcing Midjourney to add a word like arrested to their blacklist. Yeah, what's next? And what will be this final threshold where a lot of people will agree that this AI has gone too far? Specifically with video, that's even more powerful. So text to video, then of course it's we've already seen deepfakes. Imagine what video of Trump getting arrested, that even, that would make so many people instantly angry that it could actually cause someone to go in the streets and then set some cars on fire. So that's what media can do. It can work on emotions and then have people act and do something. And that's just the creative part of AI, the part of AI that I fell in love with. So Marshall McLuhan says there should be like this stop button, and this So in Cold War movies, you always see that there's a long procedure before the president of the United States can push the button that launches a nuclear missile.
Yeah.
And there's something similar, I hope, on the Russian side and the North Korean side and the Chilean side. And the whole point is that it shouldn't just be a button that someone can hit.
Yeah.
There's a whole procedure with keys and codes and two people at the same time, etc. So maybe we need something like that, but to stop AI in its tracks.
Yeah, there is a new technology where Ethereum is working with. It's a three-way authenticator. But I think we need to study it and bring it back later in the next episode because it's really interesting. The decentralized world is, I think, a solution to this problem.
So instead of having like one president and two or three members of his staff deciding to push the button, it should be, the world who decides and then uses something that cannot be messed with, like a DAO, crypto-based, blockchain-based voting mechanism.
Instagram story. Do we push the button? Yes,
yes, no.
60%.
Yeah. Kill Mid-Journey. Yes, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we live in interesting time. Yeah. A bit more uplifting, maybe. Although I think Trump getting arrested was already hilarious. I mean, the images. Ice Matrix. So we're all familiar with this one-hit wonder. Ice Baby, it had a bit of a scandal of itself, but so the Oral Notes, YouTube channel Oral Notes, were very good at editing videos and making weird mashups. So they made like an unexpected mashup between Ice Baby and The Matrix, where the characters in The Matrix have deepfake voices that are singing slightly alternative lyrics to the tune of Ice Baby. And then let's just hear two small fragments. Really well done.
Yo, VIP. Let's kick it.
Ice Baby. Ice Baby.
All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly.
Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly.
I absolutely, it made my day. I watched it like 3 or 4 times in a row. I love how the Neo character, as you know, I'm a big fan of Keanu Reeves. He has a very soft voice, and the way the voice is generated when he says his lines is really cool. So that's amazement. Another one that blew my mind. So there's this guy called John H. Meyer. His handle on Twitter is Beast Mode. And so what he did, he deepfaked Steve Jobs' voice. So he trained an AI on Steve Jobs' voice, which is doable. There's a lot of audio available. And then connected that material to ChatGPT API. Dring. There we go. So first deepfake Steve Jobs, then connected to the API. And then connected it to a homemade Facebook Messenger bot. You can make your own Facebook Messenger bot. And these three existing technologies he combined to have a conversation with a deepfaked Steve Jobs about a number of topics. If you have it ready, we could have a listen. It's very convincing. So why does this work?
Undoubtedly, the biggest global event that occurred in 2020 was the COVID-19 pandemic. It has affected millions of people worldwide and brought about significant changes in the way we live, work, and interact with one another.
And then he asks Steve Jobs for parental advice, which is weird because he's...
I think it's the next one.
Give me some
As a
parenting.
father, one of the most important things I learned was to listen and respect your child's opinions and feelings. It's important to create an environment where they feel comfortable communicating with you openly. Also, try to lead by example and show them that it's okay to make mistakes and learn from them.
And that's when I knew it was fake, because he is known to have been a terrible father, especially for his first child. She's called Lisa. And he abandoned his daughter
Really?
and her mother in a very cruel way.
Whoa.
And not a lot of people know that, because every time, he named his first personal computer, was called Lisa. Lisa was the first version. Yeah, but he also, he even, so there was a court case, and then he's, because he didn't, the mother needed money to raise this child. She was a single mom. And then he said, yeah, but she's not mine. he,
What?
yeah, so he was not a very good father. And then to hear like this parental advice, that's when I realized, yeah, it must be deepfake, because it even has this weird echo of the way his voice sounds when he's standing on a stage.
Yeah.
During the keynotes, the Apple keynotes, and then the way he talks with the pauses in between. It's not just reproducing the way he pronounces words. It's also his own way of presenting things in a very confident. He could explain away anything. It was very good with words.
One more thing.
Yes. So that was very, very impressive. And then maybe a bit of fear-mongering to end with. I try to end in beauty, but there were three things that kind of worried me in the past week. I'm not easily scared, but these three things actually scared me. So the first one is that, and I'm just gonna read the tweet from Twitter Verified, @Verified on Twitter. It says, on April 1st, we will begin winding down our legacy verified program and removing legacy verified checkmarks. I have a legacy verified checkmark. I'm pretty proud of it. It was one of the good things I had going in my life. Twitter is the only place where I look like as if I'm important. You know who followed me three days ago on Twitter?
Tell me.
John Cena.
Wow.
The actual, not a deepfaked one, the actual John Cena followed me. And it's not like he followed me back. No, for some reason, he started following me. So that made my day. And then the day after, it was like, next week, you will lose what is most dear to you in your online identity, which is your verified checkmark on Twitter. I hate you, Elon Musk. I hate you so much.
1st of April.
Why are you going to take it away from me? Please don't take it away from me.
Maybe it's his humor,
It's the first time I'm actually, because he behaves like a troll. And I think that is genuinely a part of his identity. I think it's his way of thinking that he's funny. And it's a genre of trying to be funny that is very popular on Reddit.
Yeah.
Where you have this meme that goes like, you mad? This, you know what I mean? The 1st of April, yeah. Meanwhile, and this I got from Matt Navarra. So,
but you will never lose me, Chloe.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Okay.
It's not the same thing. It's, yeah. I want to keep my little blue verified. And then there's Twitter Blue, right? So there's a corporate version of that, which is called Verified Organizations. And that's where you get, and it's getting ridiculous. So you get not one, but two. So you get like a golden icon and then a square verified Twitter. It's complete bullshit. And this is for corporations who have like a mother account and then a number of affiliated daughter accounts. And these would come under one verified umbrella. And this will cost, let me see, $950. $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month for one company, plus $50 per affiliate account per month.
Wow.
So buy Twitter for a lot of brands because, no.
That's the most expensive social media platform.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's the first thing that scared me. And then the second thing is you mentioned
Ethereum.
Crypto.
Yeah.
So I have a wallet at Coinbase. It's not a big one. It's not a fat one. But it's good. It feels good to have a wallet at Coinbase. And now Coinbase is being challenged by the SEC in the United States. And they're going to be, they have been warned officially of possible securities law violations. So what I'm reading is that the legacy financial system finally took notice of crypto and tries to rattle their cage. Yeah. And of course, I pick Coinbase. FTX already went down for good reasons, and then next one up was going to be Coinbase. But I don't think they actually broke any laws that I'm aware of. But it scared me. And then
You need to buy a hardware wallet.
I'm just going to
it's safe.
fall back to my whole prepping routine that I started during the pandemic. And so you know that I have this pantry
Yeah.
where I have food for 3 adults for at least 3 weeks, food and water. And I started this during the pandemic, and that's what I'm especially because of number 3, scary news.
Okay.
So the news came out this week, published in the New York Times, but this thing has been going on for 3 years now, which is, it's a fungus called Candida auris. And so this fungus, if it gets into your lungs, it is deadly. So in one of 3 cases, it's deadly, specifically for people who already have like a low immune system, like elderly people. Now, this is deadly, and it's also drug resistant. And it
Whoa.
spread, that's what the news article said. This Candida auris has spread rapidly in the US during the pandemic and is now in more than half of the 50 states.
Oh my God.
And I haven't been watching The Last of Us. Which
Yeah,
is
The Last of
HBO
Us. Yeah, but
series.
that's cordyceps, and cordyceps is more for power and blood circulation. But with insects, the fungi takes over the insect
and
it
turns
become-
it into a zombie.
Yeah, it turns into a zombie. Yeah, But
Those
it's-
actually exist.
Yeah. It's a good series. You need to watch it. It's
Yeah,
really
my,
good.
my daughter watched this. She was pretty hooked to it because on HBO you have to wait
Yeah,
for the next. You can't binge watch like
No.
you do on Netflix. You have to wait for Monday night. It was with her, I think,
Yeah.
until and now it's just finished.
yeah,
and,
it's just finished.
so after the viruses turning into pandemics. Now I'm it keeps me
Doomsday
up at night.
prepper, close
The
doomsday
fungi
prepper.
fungi are so. I mean. They are decentralized networks. They
Yeah.
are the original decentralized network. They don't have a head.
No,
They don't have like a brain. The brain is the network, and the network is the brain with fungi, and they are everywhere.
I studied in fungi. I love how it works. They have a network where they talk with each other. Every tree talks with each other through
Under
the
the ground.
fungi.
Oh yeah, there's a
that's-
great book about that. I just I can't find the name right now. But I love the idea of it being, it's intelligent, but the
Yeah.
intelligence is in every node and not just in the head, the way we think about intelligence.
There's also one fungi, lion's mane, it's called, and it's used to slow down dementia or Alzheimer as well.
Yeah.
It regenerates the neurons.
But
in
then,
your-
like,
in
its
your
evil
brain.
brother can invade the same care center and then kill the elderly people that the other one was trying to save. It's like a new superhero movie,
Yeah.
but with fungi. And then finally, I would like to read out a bug report from, I think it was for the app, the Slack. Slack, as you know, is being used as it's like a corporate forum for informal communications between colleagues or team members. And as you know, every time you come up with a new version in the App Store, you have to explain what the bug fixes are. And I just want to read out the bug fixes that were fixed. One bug that was fixed in the new version of the Slack app. When viewing a conversation on iPad, people noticed that there was sometimes a back button that would be visible, but which did nothing when tapped upon. This was meant as a reminder of the linear nature of time, and that no matter how much we may yearn for certain elements of the past, we must press on, ever forward, undeterred, unyielding. Can you imagine if that were true? It was absolutely a bug. Our bad.
Okay.
Give this guy a raise.
We have a comment on the deepfake section. How do you see it's fake?
How do you see it's fake? I think media training should involve, like in schools, media training should involve how to see that something is fake. And part of it is not just counting the fingers and double checking if there are 5, because the AI is, of course, learning and will get better and better, but also the context.
Yeah.
Which is similar to teaching people how to distinguish fake news from real news. who posted this first and what is their agenda. And that is even more important than being able to notice that. Remember that this person does not exist, where you could notice the ear and the teeth and the eyes. That's not enough. It's teaching people how to double check the context. Where did it come from? Who posted it? And what is their agenda? And that's the best way to detect deepfakes.
Yeah, you also see something in the face, like stroke brushes. Sometimes it seems
But
like.
just with the fingers in Midjourney, this will be fixed.
Yeah, of
because
course.
it is AI, it learns. That's the whole point
Yeah.
of it being AI, so that it's impossible to catch up with. They're getting more and more realistic, and then specifically with video, the minute that becomes more realistic, it will be very hard to technically see the difference between a deepfake video and a real one. And all media that we're seeing will also be personalized. So I'm maybe the only one seeing the video in this version, and then you're seeing another version because that works better for you.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can teach each other is to try and find out where does it come from, who posted it first, and what is their agenda.
Okay. We are getting over time, Chloe.
Yeah, no, we're exactly on time. We'll be back in exactly 1 week at 5 o'clock CET with more chaos and amazement. Thank you for listening.
Don't forget to subscribe and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Love you.